Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Dr. Aliha and I'm going to present this topic of ESWL. So let's talk about some history of shockwave lithotripsy. The concept of using the shockwaves to fragment the stone was noted first in 1950 in Russia. Dornier, a German aircraft corporation, discovered that shockwaves originating from passing debris into the atmosphere can crack something that is hard. Shockwave lithotripsy revolutionized the kidney and ureteric stone treatment. The great advantage of SWL is that its ease of administration, that we can use it as an outpatient procedure, and the no need for general anesthesia and its low complication rate. The first clinical application with successful fragmentation of renal calculi was in 1980s. Introduction. As its name suggests, extracorporeal shock waves. So the source is external to the patient's body, which generates the shock waves basically. The shockwave lithotripsy uses weak, non-intrusive waves which are generated externally, transmitted through the body, focused on the stone. The shock waves build to the sufficient strength only at the target, that's the stone, where they generate enough force to fragment a stone. This is the picture showing the waves which are focusing on the stones and will fragment the stones. There are some indications and contraindications for ESWL. So the indications is first line treatment for ureteral stones and renal stones smaller than 2 centimeter in size with the stone density of less than 1000 Hounsfield unit, skin to stone distance less than 10 centimeter, and favorable anatomy. Contraindications include pregnancy, uncorrected coagulopathy or any bleeding disorder, untreated urinary tract infection, any arterial aneurysm near the stone, obstruction of the urinary tract distal to the stone, and inability to target the stone due to some skeletal malformations. So, for understanding the ESWL, we should know the components of ESWL. There is an energy source, which is a shockwave generator, focusing system, coupling mechanism, and imaging modality. There are three types of energy sources for ESWL. Number one is electrohydraulic, which we usually called it as a spark gap or a spark wave, electromagnetic, and third is piezoelectric. The electrohydraulic generator, this is the diagram showing its mechanism. The spherically expanding shock waves generated by an underwater spark discharge. The high voltage is applied to two opposing electrodes. The resulting spark produces a vaporization bubble, and when these bubbles expand and collapse, rapidly produces a high energy pressure wave. The resulting shock wave occurs at F1 point, which is the electrode located on the ellipsoid, which focuses the wave on the stone, that is the target F2. A hemi-ellipsoid reflector and a spark gap typical of those used in the older electrohydraulic machine. So this is the mechanism. This is the hemi-ellipsoid reflector basically, and this is the electrode. So when the waves is started from these electrodes, that is the F1 point or focus point 1, and from these waves is generate vaporization bubbles, and when these bubbles reflect to the ellipsoid, they converge over the F2 point, that is our target stone. Advantages of this electrohydraulic generator is that its effectiveness in breaking stone. While there are some disadvantages, that is substantial pressure fluctuation from shock to shock. As we say, it is a spark wave or spark gap, so they generate waves in spark form. So there is fluctuation. As the electrodes deteriorates, it wear down with 1 mm displacement of the electrode tip of F1. The F2 can shift up to 1 centimeter of the initial stone target. So that is the main disadvantage of displacement of F2 point. Second mechanism is electromagnetic. As its name suggests, electromagnetic magnetic field will be generated, and that is used as a shock wave. They produce a magnetic field in either a flat plane or around a cylinder. The flat plane waves are reflected by an acoustic lens, while cylindrical waves are reflected by a parabolic reflector and transform into a spherical wave. This picture showing the electromagnetic wave. There is a electromagnetic coil which is separated by a membrane, and when the waves are generated from the coils and transmitted towards the acoustic lens which is present here, and from this acoustic lens the waves converging towards the stone, that is F2 point, which are showing here. The two electrically conducting cylindrical plates are separated by a thin membrane of insulating membrane. Passage of an electrical current through the plates generate a strong magnetic field between them, the subsequent movement of which generates a shock wave. The energy in the shock wave is concentrated onto the target by focusing it with an acoustic lens. So there are two mechanisms. This is the acoustic lens, and there is the mechanism with two cylindrical magnetic generators, and this is a parabolic reflector. Advantages of the electromagnetic generator is that its introduction of energy into a patient's body over a large skin area, which may cause less pain as opposed to others. It will deliver several 100,000 shock waves without servicing, thereby decreases the need for frequent electrolyte replacement, which was the disadvantage of electrohydraulic generator. The disadvantage of electromagnetic generator is its increased rate of subcapsular hematoma formation than the electrohydraulic one. Third generator is piezoelectric. The spherical dish is covered with about 3,000 small ceramic elements, each of which expands rapidly when a high voltage is applied across them. This rapid expansion generates a shock wave. The piezoelectric elements are usually placed inside a spherical dish to permit convergence of the shock front. Piezoelectric generators result in generation of a shock wave by nonlinear propagation. Here is the model showing a spherical dish with these ceramic elements. These are the piezoelectric ceramic elements. And here is the side view which showing these are the ceramic elements. When waves generate from here, they converge directly over the F2 points. Advantage of piezoelectric one is focusing accuracy and a long service time and the possibility of anesthesia-free treatment because of relatively low energy density at the skin entry point of shock wave. The disadvantages, as we say that it is very focused, small target, there will be a small targeting point F2 point. So the poor stone fragmentation due to extremely tiny volume of F2 point or target. These are the three generators which we discussed earlier. This is the electrohydraulic model showing the having these hemiellipsoid reflector. This is the electromagnetic one having acoustic lens, and it is the piezoelectric one with ceramic elements.
So, what do you think? Again, since we are not exposing you to a facility or a treatment modality, so it is rather imprudent to ask you any question. कि भाई ये इसकी टेक्नोलॉजी क्या है, किस तरह काम करती है, is it worthwhile to discuss here or is it not? But again, there is a generation of students that have been exposed to different kind of technologies that have been added and then subtracted from routine urological services. But still, this is not out of service, meaning to say ये obsolete नहीं है. Yes, there are papers that say that in this world, uh, maybe you have got other potential competitors in terms of like maybe ECIRS, micro PNL, mini PNL that can take care of these stone sizes which are less than like 1.5 centimeter. But again, the technology is there. Technology has got its own downside, but its own advantage. So why we have opted in Pakistan for acquiring this technology right there in 1980s, end of 1980s or mid 80s, just because of the reason that we have got a large population of stone patients, and just because of the reason that we cannot take care of those stones that are not amenable for any other procedure. For instance, open surgery at that time, that is the only thing available. The other procedures like flexible URS, like maybe standard procedure for rigid URS. That was not there in early 90s. So this was the thing that has given an edge to a region like us, where we have got a lot of population of stone patients, and then we can take care of these patients per day, 16 to 20 patients, and fairly well, just because the reason that the operator is not a technician, is a doctor. You see, you can make a lot of difference if there is an obsession and a kind of say आपकी जो लाइकिंग है कि ये मेरा पेशेंट है, मैंने इसको ट्रीट करना है because this is my job. Now this is not the technician's job. The technician's job is something different. The job description is a little different of yours as well as of technician. So this kind of benchmark was created in at that time in 90s, that lithotripsy is a treatment modality. It's not a machine itself. It is a machine, but it's not a machine. It is just like a robotic simulator, a console, which nowadays is doing something for our own purpose. So this was a technological advanced procedural equipment, but it has to be run by a doctor. And not here, but all over the world. Australia, UK, Europe, North America, anywhere in the world. So ये मैं इसलिए आपको ये बताना चाह रहा हूँ कि now there is a change in doctors, change in thinking process. Equipments कुछ दूसरे ऐड हो गए, equipments कुछ दूसरे जो हैं वो obsolete हो रहे हैं. So there is always a in and out of things. लेकिन जब आपकी ये सिलेबस का हिस्सा है तो मेरे ख्याल में आपको एक्सपोजर भी चाहिए और आपको उसकी जो टेक्नोलॉजी है उसकी फिजिक्स का भी पता होना चाहिए, because still we can ask you questions and we have got all the rights to ask you a question in an exam. But before that, if you are sitting in a clinic, maybe a clinic, stone clinic in SIUT, where there are a lot of patients in which you take a decision. You take a decision that this patient should go towards lithotripsy. Now, that decision has to be with a kind of a philosophical, theoretical, conceptual backing. So, if you don't have your hands put into a system, how come a doctor of today, maybe a junior doctor, takes a decision which is without any trail? So this is like just like a money trail. This is a knowledge trail. If the knowledge trail is something कि आपको पता ही नहीं है कि आप क्या प्रिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं, वो दवा क्या काम करेगी, वो ट्रीटमेंट मोडालिटी क्या काम करेगी, and still you are prescribing something to the patient, now that is not judicious, that is injudicious, right? So हो सकता है आपको लगे कि मैं शायद बात कर रहा हूँ आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट, हो सकता है आपको लगे कि मैं बात कर रहा हूँ मे बी अ लाउड थिंकिंग. This is not a loud thinking. Just think for yourself while out of this class, going to your houses, in your leisure time, कि आप जब भी prescribe करें कोई चीज़ किसी patient को, try to figure out whether you are putting your heart and soul in it or not, or it is just something which is like run of the mill. जी वो सब डॉक्टर असद ने कहा था तो मैंने लिथोट्रिप्सी करवा दी. डॉक्टर असद तो आज हैं कल नहीं ना, आप लोग होंगे. और ये होता है, एक जनरेशन आती है एक जनरेशन जाती है, बट द नॉलेज has to have a trail, meaning to say it has to be passed on. So this is something which you have to learn. This is something, like it or not, you have to learn because you are actually prescribing. Stop prescribing, then you can say कि ठीक है जी मुझे पढ़ने की जरूरत ही नहीं है चैप्टर्स. ठीक है. सो मैं ये नहीं कि आपको मजबूर करूंगा कि आप इसको पढ़ें, मैं ये जरूर मजबूर करूंगा आपको कि इसको पढ़ें इसलिए कि आप प्रिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं. तो जब आप प्रिस्क्राइब करना छोड़ देंगे ना, पूरे आपके जो गाइडलाइंस में से इसकी खत्म हो जाएगी पोजीशन, देन यू कैन से कि ठीक है अब मैं इसको जो है पढ़ना जरूरी नहीं है. सो दिस इज माय वे ऑफ थिंकिंग, and maybe this is something which you have to opt till such time that we have got the right to ask you a question. So the question is the basic principles behind many different energy sources. The basic principle behind selecting one energy source against the other source, ये नहीं कि मेरे पास इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक्स है मेरे हॉस्पिटल में, तो मैं हर पेशेंट को इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक्स पे रखूंगा। आप एक डिफिकल्ट पोजीशन में एसआईयूटी में, आपके पास 3 डिफरेंट एनर्जी सोर्सेज हैं। 3 डिफरेंट एनर्जी सोर्सेज को आप किस तरह सेलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, ये शायद अब ये क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा जाता। ये क्वेश्चन हमेशा जूनियर पूछता है सीनियर से, और अब सीनियर भी नहीं बताता। वो ये कहता है कि सिर्फ ठीक है भाई इसकी ESWL करा दो, ये नहीं कहता कि इसको आप जो है वो हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी अल्ट्रासाउंड की तरफ ले जाएं, जो हमारी जो मशीन है जिसका नाम LTO2 था बेसिकली, या उसको इलेक्ट्रिक हाइड्रोलिक की तरफ ले जाएं, जो शॉक वेव प्रोड्यूस होता था थ्रू स्पार्क गेप टेक्नोलॉजी। सो दैट इज समथिंग विच इज लाइक HM4। तो वो हमारी दूसरी मशीन थी, टेक्नोलॉजी इज डिफरेंट। जो थर्ड मशीन थी वो इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक्स पे काम कर रही है। सो ये सारी जो मशीनें डिफरेंट तरीके से काम कर रही हैं। हर एनर्जी सोर्स हैज गॉट इट्स ओन साइन वेव, मीनिंग टू से इट्स ओन प्रोडक्शन of a pressure wave. Now that pressure wave strikes the body. That pressure wave strikes the body from outside. That is the meaning of extracorporeal. The intracorporeal is different. आप within the body जो है ना produce करते हैं something like you introduce a laser fiber, something like you introduce a laser class probe, which works on the basis of jackhammer. Jackhammer means कि एक चीज है जिससे कि आप रोड भी तोड़ सकते हैं, उससे आप पत्थर भी तोड़ सकते हैं। It goes like to and fro motion, right? So think about it. अगर आपके पास एक स्टोन है and you got to select between 3 of these technologies, 3 of these energy sources, which one of them is suitable for this stone? So your job is a difficult job. Your job is a little responsible job. You cannot just eeny, meeny, miny, mo. This is not on. This is a responsible job, scientific job. हर एनर्जी सोर्स, जैसे मैंने कहा कि वो एक प्रेशर वेव क्रिएट कर रहा है। नाउ दैट प्रेशर वेव हैज गॉट इट्स ओन पीक वैल्यू। द पीक मींस के एक उसका क्रेस्ट होगा, एक उसका ट्रफ होगा। द क्रेस्ट, जो वेव का क्रेस्ट बनता है, जो उसका अपर हम्प बनता है, जब इन्होंने इस्तेमाल किया था वर्ड पैराबोला। नाउ दैट पैराबोला इज एक्चुअली, जो हम्प है जितना शार्प होगा उतनी ही वो एनर्जी शार्प होगी, पेनिट्रेटिंग होगी, it won't stay longer, but it will break through the nucleus, provided you hit the nucleus, or maybe you are coming from the periphery. तो ये स्टोन तोड़ना है, ये ऐसा ही है जैसे कि आप मुजस्मा बना रहे हैं। मे बी यू नो और यू डोंट नो कि जब भी आप पत्थर को तराश के जो है एक मुजस्मा बनाते हैं, मुजस्मा आपके अंदर होता है, तस्वीर आपके अंदर होती है। आपसे उसको चिसल करते हैं, उस पत्थर के अंदर बाहर से अंदर की तरफ आते हैं। ये नहीं होता कि अंदर से बाहर की तरफ जाते हैं और फिर आखिर में एक उसकी शक्ल निकल आती है। यहाँ पे भी आपने यही करना है। अगर स्टोन को आप स्ट्राइक करेंगे राइट एट द सेंटर, स्टोन विल ब्रेक इनटू 2, 3, 4 सेगमेंट्स or fragments. Now these fragments have got their own size and shape. Then you target one fragment, and then your job is actually multiplied, meaning to say आपको फोकस करना होगा। पहले आप एक को कर रहे थे, अब आपको 4 को फोकस करना होगा सेपरेटली। सो योर जॉब इज डिफरेंट। अगर आप इसी स्टोन को, जो सेम स्टोन है, वट एवर द साइज इज और वट एवर द कॉम्पोजिशन इज, you start from periphery. So you are actually coming from a point where you might have got a, say, a resultant effect of a dust, meaning to say उसको आप स्टोन को हल्के हल्के ना छोटे छोटे से पाउडर में कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं। Now to make it into a powder, you got to have a crest which is like a rather broader. आप जो है ना उसको ब्रॉड करें। ये ऐसे ही जैसे आप हथौड़ा ले लें अपने हाथ में, हथौड़े की जो स्ट्राइकिंग सरफेस है, अगर वो बिल्कुल बारीक है तो आप देखिएगा कि स्टोन को, किसी भी स्टोन को हिट करें, स्टोन बड़े बड़े पीसेस में टूट जाएगा। ठीक है, ये भी मैं वही बात कर रहा हूँ। और अगर वो फ्लैटर सरफेस है हथौड़े की जिससे आप स्ट्राइक कर रहे हैं, तो मुमकिन है कि आपके पास जो है ना उसका चूरा आ जाए स्टोन का। तो यहाँ पे मैं वही बात कर रहा हूँ। तो आपने ना उसको स्ट्राइक कहाँ पे करना है स्टोन को? आपने कौन सी एनर्जी सोर्स लेनी है, उसकी एनर्जी सोर्स का प्रेशर वेव का स्ट्रक्चर क्या है. सो ये आपको जो है ना एक प्रॉपर अंडरस्टैंडिंग देता है ऑफ सिलेक्टिंग अ पर्टिकुलर लिथोट्रिप्टर और एनर्जी सोर्स. सो दिस इज हाउ द होल थिंग गोज. आप कहेंगे जी मेरी जॉब नहीं है, आई एम अ यूरोलॉजिस्ट, मेरा काम तो कुछ काट पीट करके बाहर निकालना है. सो डोंट डू लिथोट्रिप्सी, देन द लिथोट्रिप्सी इज आउट. मैं तो खुश इस बात पे था कि आई एम कमिंग इनटू यूरोलॉजी इन एन एरा, मैं उस वक्त का आदमी हूं कि जब लिथोट्रिप्सी वाज द मार्वल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, मीनिंग टू से हमने दुनिया फतह कर ली थी और वाकई फतह कर ली थी. कहाँ एक पेशेंट हम ट्रीट करते थे एक ही वक्त में, अब हम एक ही दिन के अंदर ना 16 पेशेंट 18 पेशेंट ट्रीट कर रहे हैं विद अ सब्सटैंशियल रिजल्ट. ये और बात है कि टेक्नोलॉजी आगे बढ़ती है, टेक्नोलॉजी खड़ी नहीं रहती, हम हर चीज से सीखते हैं. इसी को साइंस कहते हैं कि आप पिछली चीज को जो है आप निगेट नहीं करते, आप उसको पूरी रिस्पेक्ट देते हैं, देन यू मूव ऑन. यहाँ पे भी हमने यही किया, जो चीज यहाँ पे सीखी उसको हमने कन्वर्ट किया इनटू समथिंग विच इज लाइक इंट्राकॉर्पोरियल लिथोट्रिप्सी, जिसमें के मुख्तलिफ एनर्जी सोर्सेज हैं, जिससे कि फिर आगे आगे फ्लेक्सिबल यूआरएस बना और उसके दूसरे. अब आप जो लेजर फाइबर इस्तेमाल करते हैं इंट्राकॉर्पोरियल लिथोट्रिप्सी, उसी में यही फिनोमेना जो मैंने आपको बताया, आप इसको इस्तेमाल करते हैं इन पॉपकॉर्न इफेक्ट, इन बस्टिंग एंड डस्टिंग. सो दीज आर द सेम थिंग. सो आप बेसिकली काम वही कर रहे हैं इन अ रिफाइंड मैनर, इन अ डिफरेंट वे.
Okay, next we will talk about the coupling effect. Coupling is basically the body और जो generator हमारी machine है उसके बीच में distance कम से कम होना चाहिए, तो that will be more effective. So the maximum energy delivery to the stone can be achieved by proper coupling of the ESWL generator head to the patient in an airtight manner with minimization of gas bubbles in the coupling media. Failure to recognize breaks in the coupling can result in unsuccessful stone fragmentation. The coupling is influenced by numerous factors. That's the type of ESWL machine, gel used at the patient generator interface, preferably a greater volume of low viscosity gel. Method of gel application, best to apply the to shock head first. Yes, sir. Gel. Third is the imaging system. We can use fluoroscopy, we can use ultrasonography, or in combination, ultrasound and fluoroscopy to image the stone. Shock wave, typical shock wave. When we give the shock waves to the stone, there is a formation of some this type of graph, which is known as typical shock wave. It's a pressure pulse at the lithotripter focus F2, that is a stone point. It has a steep positive pressure of about 40 megapascal, that is followed by a negative pressure of 10 megapascal. This is the wave. It formed the steep of 40 megapascal in positive and negative wave of 10 megapascal. There is a steep or spike. This is the trough of this wave. The entire pulse lasts for a duration of 4 milliseconds. The ratio of positive to negative peak pressure is approximately 5:1. So you want to add something to it?
This is the same thing which I was talking to you earlier. And in Pascal's, Pascal is something which is like a unit for pressure effect. So, one has to know all these things, and they have got their own implication. And unless and until we do something else, so got to know the language of the day. Chalo.
Comminution. Comminution is a stone fragmentation during ESWL is called as the comminution, which occur as a result of mechanical stressors. The stressors can be double direct stressor or indirect stressor. Direct stressors are the incidental shock waves, and indirect stressors were the collapse of bubbles. Most commonly, energy transfer through a coupling media is attenuated by an air pocket in the coupling interface. Air pocket covering as little as 2% of the coupling area diminish stone comminution or fragmentation by 20 to 40%. This is the flow chart showing lithotripler generating shock waves and how it fragment the stones. So there is the mechanism of cavitation, which can be done via asymmetrical bubble collapse or symmetrical bubble collapse. When asymmetrical bubble collapse occur, this causes the microjet formation or micro cracks, and this is the kidney, and this showing the cracks, micro cracks due to the asymmetrical bubble collapse. While symmetrical bubble collapse will causes the spherical waveform, it will cause spherical. It don't form the micro cracks. It causes the uh, fragmentation of the whole of these segment of the stone. While plane waveform will cause the waves directly over the over this segment. The result of all of these waves is compression-induced tensile crack or spallishing mechanism. Compression, as its name indicate compression, it will compress the stone fragment from both sides. While in spallishing mechanism, it will apply the force over the ends while breaking the stone from the center.
ये जो micro cracks हैं, they are also known as cookie crumble. So, do you know what is cookie crumble? Cookie तो पता है ना, बिस्किट तो खाए होंगे ना आपने, ठीक है? So if you want to crumble a cookie, what do? आप उसको तोड़ देते हैं हाथ में लेके. So what's a crumble? Apple crumble किसी ने खाया? आप लोग खाते पीते भी नहीं हैं, आप लोग हंसते भी नहीं हैं, तो आप लोग क्या करते हैं? सो एप्पल क्रम्बल, आज जाके होमवर्क है, एप्पल क्रम्बल देखिएगा, जाके तलाश कीजिएगा या अपनी स्पाउसेस से पूछिएगा अगर है तो. और कुकी क्रम्बल. सो दिस इज द फर्स्ट एग्जांपल वाज एक्चुअली अ कुकी क्रम्बल. तो मैंने तो इस तरह याद किया था और ये किताबों में भी लिखा था हमारे जमाने में. तो
So spell fracture or spellishing, the shock waves enter the stone, it will be reflected at the site of impedance mismatch. One such location is at the distal surface of the stone at the site of stone fluid interface, where the stone and urine present over the stone surface. So it will act over that area. As the shock wave is reflected, it is inverted in phases to a tensile negative wave. If the tensile wave exceeds the tensile strength of the stone, there is an induction of micro cracks that eventually coalesces and resulting in stone fragmentation. And this phenomena is termed as the spallation.
Sorry, Alia, can anyone say the meaning of the term spallation in Urdu? What is the meaning of spallation? So it is a rezakari. So it's in term spallation in Urdu, its meaning is rezakari. So the rezakari of the stone is defined spallation in the English.
Second mechanism is squeezing or splitting or circumferential compression. The shock wave advances faster through the stone than in the fluid outside the stone. It produces a circumferential force on the stone, resulting in a tensile stress that is at its maximum at the proximal and distal end of the stone. And here is the picture showing compression effect from both sides of the stone. Third stress is shear stress. Generated by shear waves or transverse waves produces high shear stress in stone. Many materials which consist of layers weak in shear, for example, calcium oxalate, its tensile strain is 5 to 10 times larger than spallation. Superfocusing its amplification of stresses inside the stone due to geometry of that stone can be focused by refraction and diffraction. Cavitation and dynamic fracture, the formation and subsequent dynamic behavior of bubble in dynamic fracture process damage induced by SWL during the course of treatment. Fragmentation is achieved by erosion and shattering mechanism. Cavitational forces result in erosion at the entry and exit sites of the shock waves. Shattering results from energy absorption with stress, strain, and shear forces. Here you can see the shock wave came and this whole area will be eroded by the shock waves, while some energy will be absorbed by the stone and it causes the erosion at other end. So both ends of the stone will be fragmented. Clinical studies comparing large focal zone lithotripters, that is Dornier HM3, and intermediate zone lithotripters, Siemens LithoStar Plus, and small zone lithotripters, Stores Modulith SLX, in which the large focal zone devices will cause the lowest retreatment rate, whereas the small zone devices has the highest retreatment rate. The present generation of lithotripsy has dry treatment heads, which make them smaller and more easily transportable. They require a coupling medium such as
डॉक्टर मनोहर साहब ये इसको थोड़ा सा आप एक्सप्लेन करेंगे लार्ज फोकल जोन एंड स्मॉल फोकल जोन
So they require a coupling medium such as gel or oil or water to join the patient to the device. Optimal coupling permits the efficient transfer of energy from the lithotripter to the patient. Decoupling and recoupling, which may occur during repositioning of a patient during SWL, can generate a large volume air pockets in the coupling medium. So one thing is triple D score. Recently, Parikh and colleagues developed a CT-based matrix as a scoring system. That's the triple D score, which incorporates three matrices. Number one is stone density. Number two is stone volume or stone dimensions. Number three is stone to skin distance to augment the prediction of SWL treatment outcome. They established cutoffs for these three matrices. For stone density, it should be less than 150 ml. For ellipsoid stone volume, for volume, it is less than 12 centimeter, and for SSD, less than 600 Hounsfield unit. A triple D score of 0, 1, 2, and 3 correlate with the SWL success rates of 21.4%, 41.3%, 78.7%, and 96.1% respectively. Complications of ESWL. We will divide this into stone-related complication, tissue effect, and infections. Stone-related complications will be most commonly, as we see in Stene-Strasse appearance, it is a fragmentation of stone and accumulation of them in the distal ureter, which can cause renal colic. Regrowth of residual stones, fragment, and renal colic. Infections, bacteriuria in non-infectious patient, and severe sepsis. Tissue effect. Tissue effect on kidneys are symptomatic or asymptomatic hematoma, as we were discussed in the electromagnetic one. Dysrhythmias, bowel perforation, and liver and spleen hematoma. These bowel perforation and liver and spleen hematoma mostly occur when our focus is not over the stone.
इनिशियली जो स्टैंड स्ट्राइजेस जो होते हैं जब फुली फ्रेगमेंट हो जाता है कोई स्टोन से अबाउट 1.5 सेंटीमीटर, तो उसके जो डेब्रीज है वो ज़्यादा बनती हैं, और अगर ये रीनल पेल्विस में होता है स्टोन तो कॉमनली जो है ये यूरेटर में पास आउट होते हैं, और वो इनिशियली वन फ्रेगमेंट जो है लार्ज होता है उसके ऊपर पाइल अप हो जाता है. दिस इज नोन स्टीन स्टाइजे, मींस स्टोन स्ट्रीट. दिस इज जर्मन वर्ड, राइट. तो ऐसे केसेस में हम आजकल जब हम डीजे लेस डीजे प्लेसमेंट की पॉलिसी है, तो हम उसमें जो है फ्रेगमेंटेशन एक गो में नहीं करते पूरे उसको स्टोन को, इसीलिए इससे जो है स्टैंड स्टाइज के चांसेस मिनिमाइज हो जाते हैं विदाउट डीजे स्टैंड. अच्छा, दूसरी चीज़ ये है, ये जो रीनल हीमाटोमा की बात कर रही हैं, रीनल हीमाटोमा जो है, जो जब से इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक शॉक वेव जनरेटर्स आए हैं उनकी इंटेंसिटी थोड़ी सी कम होती है, और ये फ्राइबल जो टिश्यू होता है वो यूजुअली फॉर्म हीमाटोमा फॉर्म करता है. तो इसीलिए हम लोग जो कल्चर पॉजिटिव पेशेंट में या इन्फ्लेमेटरी चेंजेस अगर ज़्यादा होती हैं उसमें हम अवॉइड करते हैं इस पे लिथोट्रिप्सी. उसमें हीमाटोमा के जो प्रीवियस जो इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक वो इलेक्ट्रोहाइड्रोलिक था उसमें इंटेंसिटी ज़्यादा होती थी, तो उसमें ज़्यादा स्टोन ये हीमाटोमा फॉर्मेशन के चांसेस होते थे. अब जो है अब बहुत कम रिपोर्ट होते हैं अनटिल अनलेस के वो इन्फ्लेमेटरी चेंजेस की वजह से टिश्यू फ्राइबल होता है, वो बस्ट आउट हो जाता है और उसमें सब कैप्सुलर हीमाटोमा फॉर्म हो जाता है. और आजकल हम आजकल ये जो कॉगुलेशन फैक्टर और ये सब चीज़ें भी कंसीडर करते हैं तो चांसेस बहुत कम है अब हेमाटोमा फॉर्मेशन।
Acute extrarenal damage. Liver and skeletal muscle trauma can occur, which will be evaluated by elevated levels of bilirubin, LDH, AST, ALT, and serum creatinine within 24 hours of treatment. They begin to normalize within 3 to 7 days of SWL treatment and are normalizes by 3 months. There are reports of perforation of the colon, hepatic hematoma, splenic rupture, pancreatitis, and abdominal wall abscess. Some vascular complications include rupture of hepatic artery, rupture of abdominal aorta, and iliac vein thrombosis. Thoracic complication can occur that include pneumothorax and urinothorax, and cardiac arrhythmias can occur. Acute renal injury, hematuria after approximately 200 shock waves. That shock waves rupture the blood vessel and can damage the surrounding renal tissue. There's a picture showing this red color. This is the ruptured blood vessels. They can extend from medulla to the cortex. So when extreme shocks waves are used, so they can cause the renal injury and renal vascular damage.
अच्छा, ये जो आप ये ब्लड लीकेज की बात करते हैं, दिस शॉक वेव प्रॉपर्टी है कि दिस शॉक वेव आल्सो ब्रेक द माइनर वेसल्स,
जी सर.
तो उससे जो है ब्लड एस्केप कर जाता है। लेकिन अगर टिश्यू फ्राइबल होता है या इन्फ्लेमेटरी चेंजेस होती हैं तो उसमें और ज्यादा चांसेस होते हैं ब्लीडिंग होने के, और इसीलिए every ESWL patient have tendency to transient hematuria, वो जो एक दो एपिसोड में है उसके बाद सबसाइड हो जाता है if you increase the water intake। लेकिन अगर ये इस तरह का टिश्यू होगा और या किडनी ऑलरेडी इन्फ्लेम्ड होती तो उसमें ज्यादा चांसेस हो, या कोगुलेशन फैक्टर का मसला हो या एंटी कोगुलेंट यूज करता है, उसमें ज्यादा चांसेस होता है कि आपको फ्रैंक हेमिचूरिया जो प्रोलॉन्ग हो सकता है।
जी सर.
अच्छा, कुछ साल पहले ब्रिटिश जर्नल ऑफ यूरोलॉजी के अंदर एक आर्टिकल आया था कि हु आर दोज पेशेंट्स who are at risk of having all these complications. So there are certain conditions where you have got microangiomas or microangiopathic vessels, and these are those vessels which are more friable, and normally they don't come up unless and until there is a blunt trauma. So either a blunt trauma is there, कहीं कोई fight हुई या कोई जो भी पेशेंट है उसने कोई इम्पैक्ट हाई इम्पैक्ट स्पोर्ट्स खेला हो, जैसे कि रग्बी है, जब ये चीज हो जाती है, या फिर लिथोट्रिप्सी। सो लिथोट्रिप्सी इज वन ऑफ दोज कंडीशंस इन विच एक्स्ट्रा कॉर्पोरेली आप उसको हिट कर रहे होते हैं बार बार, तो ये वेसल्स जो हैं ये they can absorb up to a certain limit, otherwise they rupture.
So factors that induces the degree of renal trauma associated shock wave lithotripsy. There are some aggravating factors which includes number of shock waves, period of shock wave administration, that is shorter the period of shock waves and increase amount of shock waves are given, there is increased chance of complications. Type of shock wave generator, first versus second versus third generation devices. More recent devices have less chances of these trauma. Kidney size, juvenile versus adult. In pediatric age group, there is more chances of these complications and renal impairment. Mitigating factors, pre-treatment with 100 to 500 shocks at low energy level to reduce the lesion size, and treatment at a slow rate of shock wave delivery less than 60 shocks per minute. These can increase our success rate of SWL. Ways to improve shockwave lithotripsy outcome: appropriate coupling, water soluble lubricant applied by hand, decrease rate to low 60 to 70 shocks per minute or intermediate 80 to 90 shocks per minute, image frequently, and stop shocking once fragment. Do not use a preset number of shocks. It's a ramping protocol, which is that treat with low power escalating to higher levels. Don't start from the higher wave levels. General anesthesia, do not use a urethral stent. Consider alpha blocker for medical explosion therapy, and consider percussion, diuresis, and inversion therapy. There are some future direction. There's an article, decrease radiation exposure and increase efficacy in extracorporeal shock wave lithotripsy using a new ultrasound stone locking mechanism. This article basically compare the having two groups. One is using the sonolith lithotripter, while second group is using ultrasound localizing mechanism. So they found that the second group in which ultrasound localizing mechanism was used, there are significant decrease chances of complication. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much.